No leads.
Yo, what's poppin'? All my peeps, it is I, your host, the most Renaissance man who always thinks he can, and your champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, once again back in the yard of streams for another edition of Pitts and Sara's Wrestling Show, where we take no nights off. And it's not just me, Patty P, here in the yard of streams. I'm joined, as always, by the best of the West you can't forget about, Sara Marshall. What's popping, girl?
Hey, yo.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hey, yo. What's going
popping?
on?
Not a whole lot.
We're live on we are live on TikTok as well. So I was trying to make sure we say hello to the people over there also.
Also live for the first time on the Nonsense Sports Network,
Yeah.
my gaming channel, where I play as the bad gal, Sara Marshall herself, through the WWE 2K24, my Rise, my player mode. You're about to win the title, but like Shotzi's kind of getting in the way.
Oh, geez.
Getting in the way.
Shotzi has been a theme this week, hasn't she?
Like low key, because I was doing this, and then the news about her getting the boot from
and
the
that
Rumble.
picture of her backstage. Did you see? It was she's behind
Jordan Grace and Ivy
and people
Nile.
were feeling really bad for her, which I get it. Like, obviously that kind of sucks that she got pushed aside, and I think that the reports or the rumors were that it was for Alexa, but like
it's for Alexa.
but like,
yeah,
I'm not trying to be rude, but girl, really, come on. Like, if it was somebody else that was like random or whatever, or like, and no disrespect, but like if it was Michelle McCool, then I could be like, okay, she, like, you know, I get why Shotzi would be upset, but it's Alexa Bliss, you know? So at this point, there was nothing she could really do.
Legitimately the biggest pop of the night. I would believe it was the biggest pop of the year so far, but on any show. So yeah, I do. It sucks for Shotzi, but that's business, unfortunately. That is business, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so,
it's just how it is.
It is what it is. And we're going to talk about business tonight. We're going to be talking all of the shit that's going on in AEW, WWE, obviously. And let's just kick it off with our...
Say hi, right?
Oh, we gotta say with the peeps.
We gotta say hi.
We gotta say hi and check in with the peeps. Sophia, at this point, I got your apology. I just want to know where this Michael Jackson tribute show was in Plymouth. I wonder if it's at a restaurant I would like to go and eat at. Nathaniel, I don't know what to say about this man, because Luka being traded to the Lakers is one of the most egregious things that could have happened in the NBA this year. And it was a trade that was so ridiculous that 2K wouldn't accept that trade. I saw a video about it online. Like, it's insane. I'm not ready for Lakers dynasty. What's poppin', David? And I love that Sara. You're dressed like Cope.
I'm dressed like Cope. How am I dressed like
Cope?
Cope?
It is? No, it's the pony. Remember how? But that's like Jericho.
Back in the day. Oh yeah, that was Jericho, wasn't it?
That was a Jericho with this. I just heard it on the CVV interview. So, all right. So let's kick things off with let's kick off with our favorite segment of the week.
Don't be a lemon, be a rosebud.
Don't be a lemon, Sarah. Be a rosebud. It is time for our lemons and rosebuds of the week. Our favorite and least favorite things that we saw in wrestling this week. Okay, so I'm gonna stop royal rambling here and let Sarah go first with her favorite thing that she saw in wrestling this week.
All right. Well,
What's uh-oh?
Well, because of what I want to say. So I had a hard time trying to find like what my favorite thing of the week was, but I think after the Royal Rumble, and I wasn't like super thrilled with the Rumble, the fact that I've seen a lot more people vocalizing their support for Gunther, that has been really nice for people like me who are big Gunther fans and feel a little bit displaced or forgotten about. That has been kind of cool because I've just randomly come across these tweets of people saying like, oh, his reign hasn't been great, or that are looking ahead to what feels like is inevitably going to be his match at WrestleMania. And so people are, I think, I don't know, it doesn't even necessarily mean that they're not Jey Uso fans. I think that they're just looking at his title reign and are realizing that it hasn't been that great, and the fact that it could, well, not it could, but it looks inevitably like it's going to end at Mania. I think people are starting to kind of reflect on it and be like, oh, like he's deserved a little bit better. So I just feel a little bit like less alone, as dramatic as that sounds.
Well, there's definitely people out there who are on your side and on your team about this. Although I will say that I'm not. I just don't care either way about what goes down at Mania. I've already said this, so yeah.
Yeah, there's a Jey Uso fan in the chat on TikTok. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just kind of surprising to see anybody saying anything, because the topic has been so heavily focused on Jey Uso. Like that's all that you've been able to find on social media. So the fact that I've been able to like sift through that, and I've been able to actually find some people that are like, wait a second, Gunther's a champion, he deserves to be the champion. People are trying to argue with me about it, but there is somebody in the TikTok chat that's like believes that Gunther's going to squash Jey. I disagree. He says, LOL, Gunther is going to squash Jey. So I don't think so, guys. I don't think it's going to happen. I would love for that to happen, because this is an argument we can have when we talk about something else in a little bit. But I don't think that he has to win. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be some sort of like uprise in Gunther fans, or at least the visibility of Gunther fans because of this, because I've had a difficult time coming across many of them. So if they're going to be vocalizing their support for him now, I don't know if it's simply because of who he's seemingly going to be against at WrestleMania, or if it's just finally kicking in that like, okay, this isn't a great title reign. I don't really care what the reason is. I'm like, can we all just like join together? Because I've been looking for you. It's a lonely world out there, being
there's not a lot of you out there. There's not a lot.
And Gunther's just always here for me, though.
I'm happy he's there for you.
He's always here, guys.
There for you.
He's always here.
I'm glad he's there for you. I would. There's a lot I could say for my rosebud this week. Like, I don't have anything in particular. I'm gonna say the Chris Van Fleet interviews again. I'm just gonna say interviews in general in the wrestling world. It's incredible the avenues we have with the interviews that we're getting with Chris Van Fleet, Busted Open, all these guys. Because what it does is just been a nice little peek into backstage and what's going on that helps you not understand the show better, but the business as a whole. And for a while, it felt that you didn't want to expose the business because it would be killing the business. But that's not how emotions work. That's not how fans' emotions work. Like, they're going to want to know even more You know, like if you're gonna equivocate it to Hollywood, how many DVDs have you seen with backstage footage? You know what I mean? We're a little bit away. We've already seen it with the behind the scenes social posts that WWE puts out with how the entrances are done. You know, they're discussing what should be done during this match, whatever. You know, the interviews themselves are another piece of that. And I mean, just an example, I would not have learned as much as I did about Danhausen this week if it wasn't for CVV and that interview. And realizing that
Appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you.
there's a lot more to Danhausen, that he really is more of a big act on the indies, and there's like people you wouldn't see. So yeah.
What I think is interesting about it, though, with these new interviews, and I don't know, I guess maybe they're becoming a few more prominent interviewers for professional wrestlers, is wrestlers being so much more transparent than they've ever been. You know, because for a really long time, they wanted to I wouldn't say be secretive, but they kind of wanted us to not really know about, you know, like the lingo, and they didn't want us to know about how things work, or how long it takes to plan things, or the fact that they practice, you know, like that kind of stuff, or the thought process that goes into creating a character or creating a story, or how did this come about. Like they really wanted us to be kept out of that, and it makes sense, because to a big degree, you know, like when you're a child, it's the mystique of it. So you lose that as you get older with a lot of things, obviously. But when we're talking about professional wrestling, it's kind of something that you miss. You miss the ignorance of not knowing these things. But now they're kind of being a little bit more loose with it. Like they understand that wrestling fans in 2025 are a lot smarter than they've ever been. We know the terms, we know how things work. Like we want to hear the truth. We want to see that transparency, because those are the type of interviews that I think you weren't able to see for a really long time in wrestling. So now that people are a little bit more open with actually discussing things that they typically wouldn't, I don't know, that I think is what makes it the most intriguing. That's why I'm always most fascinated, I think, with wrestlers from like the 80s and 90s, hearing what they have to say, because things were so different back then. So hearing the struggles that they had to go through and what went into it and how stuff was, like it's so different. I mean, and it's not even just how shows are booked. I mean, they were, you know, on the road 300 days a year and driving everywhere. Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff I think is the most fascinating.
On their own dollar. Keep that in mind. On their own dollar.
And I feel like they just have a knowledge that, I don't know, I've said it before, like I mean, if you know me, then you know that I'm a huge Scott Hall fan. So I love to listen to what Scott Hall has had to say in interviews and stuff. And I feel like you can really learn a lot from what they have to say. It kind of gives you a different perspective on the business too. So it can make you respect the business more, or maybe respect a certain wrestler more. Like, I don't know. I find that a lot more intriguing than just a typical in character wrestling interview. You know, like that's fun every now and then. And that's the problem that I had. I think we talked about it with Roman's that episode that he had on A&E, where it was like Legends or whatever. And I get it. Like, I think it was before Mania 40, but it was before, in character. And so that bummed me out, because it's like that would have been such a great opportunity to actually hear from the man behind Roman Reigns. You know, like they kind of tried to break that wall down by, you know, playing that voicemail or whatever from his brother before he passed and stuff like that. But it still was Roman Reigns. We weren't really hearing from, you know, the real person. So
it wasn't Joe.
Yeah, it wasn't Joe.
When we go with Joe, that it's like the Undertaker now. For years, you never heard boo from the Undertaker, because he was trying to protect the character, you know, not kill kayfabe. And now that he's retired, you know, he's giving all the secrets out. You know, so it's really, and that's someone too that you want to listen to, because that's the Undertaker. I mean, the man was, if you talk about went through it all, I mean, he was there from Hulk Hogan to Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Well, yeah, because it's
there.
kind of like he's almost kind of like the Tom Brady of wrestling. Like, was on top like throughout his entire career, but lived through different eras of the business. Like the Undertaker saw how much everything changed and how fans perceived wrestling and how they watched wrestling and like, I don't know, just everything. Like that has to be pretty crazy given when he started. It's like you could only watch stuff on TV, really. Like there weren't really radio stations. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. You weren't going to arenas all the time that you could sell out like 50,000. Like I don't know. That has to be pretty wild.
Insane. I couldn't imagine a world without YouTube at this point. I think I've been watching stuff on YouTube since like 4th grade. I don't know. Like Charlie bit my finger. Like how would we have ever known that Charlie bit his finger? I don't know. Crazy. What did you hate this week? I feel like there's a lot of hate in that heart.
There are some things that I didn't particularly like. But I had a hard time just picking one thing because we're going to talk about some of the things that I didn't like this week. I did see that, I guess we can add this. It's not like a huge deal or anything, but Tiffany Stratton did respond to Mandy Rose.
I didn't see that. What'd she say?
So I also didn't realize that Mandy Rose called her a bitch. I did not.
Yeah, she called it. She said, keep that, like some bitch, keep that name on my
girl. Bye.
Why are you using that? Like, those are fighting words. All right. Calm down.
So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was weird. But anyway, so so Tiffany was interviewed and she said that, she was a little bit like, oh, like she is kind of sad that she feels that way and doesn't really feel like it's necessary to feel that way, but she's like, I wish her all the best. Like she was just trying to be as pleasant as possible.
Very.
And I applaud her for taking the high road because when we talked about this last week, Mandy is being absolutely ridiculous. And this feels like to me somebody who's trying to really grasp at the tiniest straw that she can find to remain relevant in wrestling. And she's like trying to pick beef with like, the hottest girl right now. And one of them is Tiffany. She sees her as, I don't know if she sees her as less than her or like, obviously she's not going to go after Rhea Ripley of all people. You know what I'm saying? So like, this felt like a calculated thing. And it's just unfortunate because, I admit we don't know what their relationship was. We don't know if they had beef when they were in NXT together, but this just felt silly and it's sad that Tiffany even had to respond to it. But I applaud her for how she did it because I can't say that I would have responded the same way. Okay. Like I might have been like,
I'll tell you right now, you would have had fighting words
because it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. It is ridiculous what she said. It's absurd because you got fired out of that world and you actually are doing better, I would think, in your own life. She didn't
want to quit that to keep wrestling. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that's what I'm saying. So you chose one and you're doing well. It's not like you're struggling with the one that you chose and then you having this, feeling. I get that. But it seems like you're doing pretty all right without WWE and WWE is doing pretty well without you.
Yeah.
So why do you have the need to throw a little match into the fire pit?
Well, and why when a girl is doing well and like she just won the championship, like just let her be, dude. Like
screams jealousy.
Well, that's why I'm saying
jealousy.
I think that's why she did it because I think she probably is jealous because when they were both around in NXT, they were because I searched this when I was trying to look for like more details. If there was any stories out there or something like talking about, they had beef or whatever it was. And I saw a lot of stories of people comparing them and being like, oh, they have the new Mandy or whatever in Tiffany. And it's like, but they were so different. They're so different. So I don't really understand how they would even be compared. Like, They don't look like each other. They don't have the same vibe. They like don't talk the same. Like there's really nothing similar about them other than the fact that they're both women. Like that's basically it.
Strong, beautiful blonde women.
Yeah, and at the time, well, I don't know, maybe not at the time, but I mean, for a good run, Mandy was brunette, so it's like, okay, like the easiest similarity that most people would say isn't even relevant here either, because when she got into Toxic Attraction, she dyed her hair. Remember?
She did.
Yeah. So this just feels like I think she's trying to keep one foot in the door of wrestling because she keeps teasing, oh, I might return, but we know that she's never going to return to WWE as long as she's doing that type of content, which is like I said, go girl, go get your money, girl. Like do what you want to do.
I ain't saying shit. I'm jealous.
I think it's also just silly. Like if you want to keep the door open for wrestling, that's fine, but you don't need to take people down in the process. Like talk about your career, talk about your favorite matches, talk about like, oh, you were just training the other week or whatever. Like there's plenty of things that you can talk about from your own experience. You can talk about when you were on Tough Enough. There's a lot that you can talk about that doesn't involve putting somebody else down, especially when they're on top right now. And it's just going to, reek of jealousy, like you said.
What was my lemon of the week? You know what? I'll say this for like fandom purposes is my lemon.
Okay.
And is this strictly fandom? I'm upset Kevin Owens turned on Sammy.
Really?
Like, because like they just started being friends again. Like I totally understand why they did it. I'm happy that we're gonna see it at WrestleMania. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to my Instagram and TikTok at Patty Pitts. Just posted a video from our Raw Rewind about that. But I'm like, seriously, like I, as a fan of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, like I would have liked to see them not fight anymore, fight for a bit. But like, what if Sammy like joined the dark side?
Well,
what if that? Like, what if I
think I kind of wonder if they're in a weird position of thinking like maybe Sammy can't be a heel, because Sammy hasn't really ever been a heel in his career. Like he was a
conspiracy theorist.
I know, but that wasn't really a heel. You know what I mean? That was like a guy just trying to put himself first and feeling like everybody was out to get him.
That was a bad guy. That wasn't like a heel.
Yeah, like, you didn't hate him. Like... He was just annoying. You know what I mean? But you were also intrigued by what he was saying. Because everybody loves a good conspiracy theory. Oh,
who doesn't? I
feel like I kind of wonder if they are scared to do it. I mean, not in the same regard that they were with like John Cena or something, obviously, but I kind of wonder if that's why they didn't explore that more, or that could be it. But they also might want to appease something that they want to do. Like maybe Kevin and Sammy really do want to have a match against each other, like at the biggest stage of them all, I mean, and they just catered last year to the Usos. And they had their match, which that felt very forced because there wasn't a whole lot of that going back and forth leading up to Mania. They have a lot of time to do that now with Kevin and Sammy. And so I would love for them to do that. So that's why I'm intrigued. I think I'm just like, I love what Kevin Owens is doing right now. And I really think, and we've talked about this and you agreed, like at the heart of why Kevin has had this turn and why he's like on this run of anger and I don't know, damaging people. We don't disagree with him. We don't disagree with why he's in this position right now. And because it all stemmed from feeling betrayed by his friends or not feeling supported by his friends, why wouldn't he go after Sammy? Because he fits that right now. So I feel like this could be really good. And some people I've seen, like, I guess I could get your take on this too. I've seen some people say that they don't want to see Kevin versus Sammy because we've seen it so many times before. However, people are talking about like 10 years ago in NXT. It's not the same anymore. You know, like these guys are in such a different place. And I feel like seeing them in a match against each other with this prolonged story, assuming that, you know, Sammy's going to be out for a while because of the pile driver, and that they will push it out till Mania. I'm hoping
2
longer.
weeks.
I'm hoping that he doesn't come back until the Chamber.
There it is. Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Chamber.
I need them to be out for a while because I don't want them to face each other at the Chamber. That's why I want them to push it out as long as they can so that they can have it at Mania. That gives them a really solid amount of time to put together like a killer story. And they are both so good at what they do. And like Kevin is so good at being hateable. Even if I don't hate him because I like it's very much like I know. Well, it's like what Drew McIntyre was last year. You couldn't really hate what he was standing for because he wasn't wrong. And that's kind of how it is with Kevin. But Sammy is so good at tapping into that like emotional side of fans, but also the way he presents everything. It's like you legitimately think that is I forget what Sami Zayn's real name is, but you think that that's like who's speaking and not Sami Zayn. You know what I mean? Like he's that good at blurring the lines between, you know, professional wrestling script and reality. So I think that him going against his real life best friend / brother, like so good. So that's why I'm like, I'm down.
Because, okay. There's a thing in wrestling, or hold on, let me back up. Some people are just wrestling soulmates. We've seen it with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Right now, the other one being Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, it feels like. CM Punk and John Cena could be up in that category. And I can go on and on. And when you have wrestling soulmates, it doesn't matter when the match is, what the match entails. What matters is that they're actually going to go out there and put on an entertaining match and a match that means something, you know, not just a house show match to get it over with the live crowd, but to actually do something that pushes the business forward. And Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have done that before. They did it at Ring of Honor with their trilogy. I mean, people were clear. They wanted KO to do that package pile driver to Cody Rhodes from the Ring of Honor Ladder Wars match as a callback. You know, and just they did that in Ring of Honor. They can do it in WWE. They did it in NXT. Now let's do it on the main roster. And a stage like WrestleMania, you dream of doing that with your wrestling soulmate, you know, on the grandest stage of them all. And probably I'm going to have a spoiler here that it's going to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time.
Well, and I think they're really trying to tap into emotion right now, as we saw, you know, obviously with Jey Uso, with Charlotte, whatever, just, I mean, the most recent examples. And I feel like they're going to be lacking some of that this year as compared to WrestleMania 40, because obviously like the Bloodline storyline was a huge thing for people. A Cody Rhodes story of overcoming the Bloodline and becoming champion for the first time. So like they don't have those to lean on this year. And so obviously Jey Uso is going to bring that in whatever title match that he has. But I don't think that they're going to want that to be the only example. I think that Kevin versus Sammy is like right up there. And that feels like a WrestleMania match to me. And it could become bigger too. Like what if they throw Randy into it? You know, I don't know. We'll see.
We have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, first off, like Alien, they got beat the other night by the actual best team in the East, the Boston Celtics. So
go C's.
Yeah, I know numbers don't lie. They may be number one, but let's check back in on that in June.
They did just make a trade, and people were pretty excited about it. So that
the Cavs did.
The Cavs made a trade, didn't they, earlier? Yeah. I don't remember who it was for, but
I only saw the Jimmy Butler trade, which thank fucking God.
Oh no,
he's out of
there's been
Miami.
a bunch of trades. Like Marcus Smart was traded today.
Really?
Yeah, he's on the Wizards now.
Oh, that's jobber jail. That's the NBA equivalent of jobber jail.
I can't argue with him though. Like this will be a rant for another day. Like I could rant about what they're doing to Liv Morgan.
You want to pop off?
No, we have so much we want to talk about, so I don't want to pop off about that right now.
That's fine. That's fine. Save that energy.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot to say about other things, so.
All right, let's do it though.
Okay.
Let's travel. Let's travel around the Wrestleverse. I'm bringing this up because we need to talk about the good parts of Dynamite. All right. AEW is getting good. Yes, I didn't mention the Death Riders as my rosebud, and I don't really have a soapbox to get on to proclaim why they are the best thing going on in AEW right now. Because this is where the focus needs to be. This is where the women's division is finally shining and is showing off that, okay, AEW is capable of pushing the top women into amazing feuds and rivalries and sort of whatever. Last night on Dynamite, Mariah May comes out of commentary for Timeless Tony Storm versus Red Velvet or one of the other jobbers in the division. And Timeless Tony Storm comes out as Mariah May, the Glamour. And when I tell you it was spot on, not only the look and the blonde hair, but the mannerisms, the poses, the taunts. I think she finished the match with Mariah May's finishing move, Mayday. And everything was so good. And also what I liked about it was a minor detail was Mariah May's reaction. It wasn't over the top and ended in a DQ because she couldn't handle it. She's lost it. No, it was well played. Well played.
Yeah, it was like respect.
Because she did it before to kick their feud for All In, I'm pretty sure. And now she's doing it, and it's like, that's what's so good. Like, that is the best thing I've seen the women's division do in a very long time in AEW. Like, this is the story that needs to be pushed for Grand Slam. I love Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega as much as the next guy. All right. But this is the match to market for Grand Slam. Honestly, if this main evented, I would not be upset.
Well, and I think there probably are people that will agree with you. I just don't think I see Tony doing that. It feels like he definitely has preferences when it comes to the women, and I don't know that Tony is one of them.
Oh, you're right. Let me just tweet that because I totally agree with you. I think he would favor someone else in the men's division to main event over Tony Storm.
Yeah, or like Mercedes, if we're talking about like women.
There it is. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that he would let that, even if I feel like Timeless Tony Storm is kind of it's kind of crossing over beyond AEW, because I think, you know, there are diehard fans that are loyal to each brand. So I'm not saying she's necessarily like bringing WWE fans over to AEW on Wednesdays, but I think that there are a good portion of WWE loyalists that are very well aware of what Tony Storm is doing and appreciate what she's doing and understand like she's killing it, you know? And it might be because she used to be in WWE, so maybe that's why people have a little bit of an eye on her, which, I mean, I don't think it matters. I think because of how well she's doing, everything that she's been doing since she took on this character last year, like, that tells you a lot if it's actually intriguing people who generally don't want to hear anything about the other company.
Yeah, and what she's doing is the closest thing to like WWE style of wrestling in AEW, which you do need on AEW.
Yeah, well, they can't all
And
be Will Ospreys and Ricochets
And that goes for every wrestling company, that you can't
yeah,
have Will Ospreys and Ricochets and Kenny Omega. Oh, no, Kenny Omega's different, but Ricochets and Will Ospreys in every company,
yeah.
whatever. I lost my train of thought. But
I hate
point
that.
is, yeah, what they're doing is unbelievable. All
Yeah.
right. It was awesome on Dynamite last night. That
Mhm.
and the opening sequence of Jay White being interviewed and then the Death Riders popping up, rated FTR being behind the Death Riders and a fight ensuing. But before the fight ensued, Marina Shafir just picked Renee Paquette up with one arm and just
Oh.
walked her away. Like they are getting better. Like they're getting there. It's becoming a watchable, like, oh, I should tune in every week. We're almost there. Also, I found this out today while scrolling Twitter that Tony Khan apparently would listen to hours upon hours of Jim Cornette podcasts,
Oh, I
which
know.
is the funniest thing in the world because the man does not book at all like Jim Cornette. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't. He
Well, I know,
tries with
and
the style, but the execution is not Jim Cornette.
it's interesting because you would think if he listens to him that much that he would maybe get some inspiration, or like maybe it would shift his mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not sitting here advocating for Jim Cornette, but like not everything that he ever says or did or said is bad, because I know that he gets like a lot of reaction in the wrestling
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, he gets a lot of reaction, but sometimes the people like that actually know what they're talking about.
Mm.
They do have an inkling. They
Who's
may
the
not be
guy?
riding the wave, but
Who was the guy that was in WCW that ruined WCW? What
Vince
was his name?
Russo.
Yeah, Russo. I could not think of his name for the life of me.
Bro,
It's like,
you
yeah.
got Stone Cold coming out, and he's just gonna douse Vinny with the beer truck. He's gonna just take he's gonna take the hose,
Bro.
and he's just gonna spray Vinny Mac and Shane with the hose, and Dwayne. He'll spray Dwayne too.
Like, that would be way worse if we heard he was like listening to Russo. You know what I mean?
If he was listening to Russo, it would make so much sense. I'm like,
It would.
oh,
I know.
this is why we
It's almost
can't.
like you can question the story. It's like, are you sure it was Cornette, not Russo? Are you
Thing
trying
was-
to make him seem more intelligent, or what are we
Yeah,
doing?
like, oh, so funny. God, that whole Jimmy Jacobs interview isn't bad. I saw clips of that. And he also claimed that he didn't write any supernatural stuff for AEW. Staying with AEW, I mentioned this already that the CVV interviews were my Rosebud favorite things of the week. They really help on long car rides driving around Massachusetts. And I mean, I love the Danhausen one. Honestly, check that out because that's someone who is not going to be a world champion, but plays a significant role in the future of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
This man, who obviously has paved the way for the future of wrestling, even creating his own vortex, went on Chris Van Fleet, and it was a great interview. I will add, it was a great interview. And he mentioned they got mentioned the Jericho Vortex. And I know what he said, but I want to get it verbatim, talking about how he didn't then bring anyone down
Oh my God.
from
Yeah.
the Jericho Vortex, which you're not going to like what I have to say.
The thing is
Here,
he lists,
I have the quote.
Well, I just mean the one person he lists, it's like he was already a star before he got to you. So like, what are we talking about? Like, there's not a whole lot that you could have done, but
So he said verbatim, here's a quote. I always love the concept of the Jericho Vortex and how anybody that works with me gets dragged down. Name one person that got dragged down from working with me. Maybe afterwards they didn't go higher, but that's not up to me. I'm not in charge of the book. I'm not in charge of booking the entire company. All I can do is influence the storylines that I work on. But everybody that I can think of who worked with me certainly went to a higher level. I did a year with MJF and look what he's at. Danny Garcia, Sammy Guevara, Daddy Magic last week comes off commentary and gets a big pop. Who do you think put them in that position? All those guys. I mean, I think Big Bill and Brian Keith have grown by leaps and bounds from working here with me under the learning tree.
Okay, MJF.
He's not wrong, by the way.
But also,
bomb.
let's stop pretending like Big Bill wasn't like a familiar name before he got to AEW. First of all, but let's not forget about all of the people that he has brought down. Hook being like the biggest one, and then it's also like the Jericho. What was it? The Jericho something society?
Appreciation Society.
Yeah, that whole thing was a vortex. None of those people are like relevant anymore. What are you talking about? You didn't bring anybody
Daddy
down.
Magic
You elevated
is killing
them.
it on commentary.
But
killing it on commentary.
But that's not helpful from Jericho. He's not wrestling. So I don't know. I think
in that way it's not. Not in the direct way.
This is just the latest example, I think, of him just being so out of touch with what he's doing, and not recognizing that he is part of the problem in some way. And I get it. Like it's not easy for anyone to admit that, no matter what we're talking about. But he's not a spring chicken. You know, this guy's been around for a long time. He understands the business of wrestling, and there's no way that he said any of this with a straight face and believes it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to say that you necessarily ruined people's careers, because I don't think that we would even go that far, but to act like you elevated all of them or that you did them a service while simultaneously blaming Tony Khan is odd.
He did. I do love that he threw Tony. I love that we're just now all throwing Tony Khan under the bus because he is more of a problem than the solution.
But
let's
Jericho
just keep
has
referring to him as the Bank of Khan. That's because Tony Khan loves Jericho. That's exactly why.
But what I'm saying is like Jericho's been loyal, so like that was kind of a big deal, and I don't think he realizes what he said when he said that. You know what I mean? Like, I think he was trying to take the heat off of him and proving a point by saying, "Oh, it's not me, it's them." But like, while saying that, you're blaming your guy Tony because he's the one that's coming up with the storylines and stuff. So like, I don't know. I get what he's saying. I don't think it's completely valid, because I think like if you look at the track record, especially during this whole learning tree thing, it's like, no, you have done more harm than good. No matter how much you like this current character or the work you've done or whatever. But a lot of these, like, please retire, you suck, whatever, that stuff didn't start until the learning tree stuff and the like way too long of a story with Hook. So it's like, doesn't that kind of make you think that maybe something's off here? I don't know.
I can see what he means, although I will say that he's not elevating talent on screen. And that's something that I think is being not seen, is that, yeah, easy example is Daddy Magic. Like, he didn't elevate him to be in a title picture of some sort, but he gave him an opportunity to shine with the Jericho Appreciation Society. And yeah, he was mediocre in the ring. He could do some dark matches. He could start the show in that way. But his strength is commentary. Like, I want Daddy Magic on AEW programming every week with a microphone in his hand or on his head, because he's that good. And if that's what we can take away from the Jericho appreciation side, or Jericho in general, actually saying that he's elevating talent and that's his perception of it, then great. But you're not elevating talent in the other way of in-ring, on-screen, and wrestler. You're elevating them in a role for the company. So,
and you know what I would almost say is potentially part of the problem too, is the talent not wanting to elevate the other talent.
And that's a company issue.
I know, but I think that is part of the issue. And the biggest thing is because they don't have a lot of the checks and balances that WWE has. You know what I mean? They don't have the same staff that kind of like tries to come up with all these stories and push people this and have them do this or whatever, you know. They also don't have veterans, it seems, that are willing to take a pin, lose a match, make this guy look good, because they're still trying to make themselves look good. That, I think, is part of the problem. And because we've talked about it, Jericho should be at a point in his career where he's doing that and it's not a problem. Like, you want to do that. I mean, you should want to do that throughout your career. You shouldn't want to be a jobber, obviously, but like, that's part of professional wrestling. Like, you have to help this guy look good sometimes, just like that guy's going to make you look good sometimes. Like,
yeah.
And it doesn't feel like that many of them, especially Jericho, are in a headspace to do that, you know?
No, and that's why the Death Riders are taking over AEW on screen and off screen. Final boss, I will get to your good comment in a second, but we got to point out the bad first. That you're so wrong with this. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I love your participation here, but Mox having control over his character and more say in the creative process is the best thing that AEW could, best thing for AEW right now, because it gives legitimacy. It's Mox trying to make a change that he was promised in 2019, I think is when he signed, and it hasn't happened. They're still plateauing. Like, it's not about Rome wasn't built in a day. And look at what they've done in 6 years, and still look at how much they still need to work on. So it's about fine-tuning that and giving the control to a guy like Moxley, who it's all in the details of what they're doing. He's not making himself be the best heel, like king of AEW. No, it's changed. There's no sign of any belt, not just the AEW World Championship, but when have you seen the World Trios titles? You haven't. That's symbolizing change. Like, there's little details there that they're doing that if you don't think critically and don't look out with a keen eye, you're going to miss, and it's going to change your opinion on the product in a negative way. But in a positive way, I will say Carly Cameron is another reason why the women's division is on fire right now, and actually making Mercedes Moné someone to watch every week, because she's feuding with her a little bit. The puppet that she had of Mercedes Moné was one of the funniest things I've seen. She's a like a legit ventriloquist, and is pretty decent at it. I love Harley Cameron. She's so entertaining, and she just adds that chaos factor to the show that not only the show needs, but the women's division right now, because it's so just meh. They're not being highlighted properly. Harley Cameron is making every minute of her screen time work. Yeah, let's move on. Do we want to okay. Start with this. Back to WWE we go. Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble might have been a last minute decision. I will say I knew this before. Like, I heard rumblings of this, and Jey Uso did say that he knew the day of. And you have stronger opinions than me about this. My opinion about this is just like, wow, it's crazy that I don't know. I just don't have such strong opinions about it. You do, but
well, I don't necessarily have strong opinions. I think it's more so. I mean, I have strong opinions about Jey Uso, but not necessarily this. I think it's interesting because he said that he didn't find out until the day of, like, late afternoon, that he was winning the Rumble, and so to me, I don't know. That seems odd, just because Triple H has told us, like, I think it was when they were talking about WrestleMania 40, that they basically knew what Mania 40 was going to be in October, which means they already knew about the Rumble. They already knew about Elimination Chamber, like everything they already knew. So if that's the case, then why did Jey only know, like, the day of? Because I feel like it can't be, oh, it's a secrecy thing. No, because, like, Jey would have to just be quiet. You're just not going to go around and tell people, and then it's going to get leaked to the audience or something, It makes me wonder if there was a different plan in place, and then they just decided to go with Jey. And if that's what it is. I'm curious, what was the original plan? Who was supposed to win, or how was the story supposed to... Well, and that's kind of how it felt, right? Because nobody predicted that Jey Uso was going to win. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when we're talking about like who people were guessing that were going to win and why in some arguments, it would have made more sense for other people to have won over Jay based on the stories that we were seeing, the teases that they had even before the Rumble,
the promos.
Like there's a reason why no one said Jay. It's not just because, like they swerved us. No, it's because it felt like they just teased this with Cody. They teased this with Gunther. They teased this with Punk and Drew, So it seems like, okay, did you have an idea and then it fell through, or like were you just like throwing shit at a wall and seeing what stuck? Like what was it? And it's not trying to necessarily take anything away from Jey Uso being the winner, but I just like kind of scratched my head a little bit because we've been fed that Triple H is a planner and he like thinks these things through and it's months in advance. So it seems odd that you would wait until the day of to tell the Rumble winner, especially somebody who has never won the Rumble, never main evented like WrestleMania in a singles capacity. Like you would wait until the day of to tell him. That just seems odd to me. But
to me, it seems like they had a few different ways. And from what I heard from friends of mine who have an ear, sources, whatever you want to call it, it felt like they had a couple options of where to go. And after Jay winning and seeing Raw, Netflix, NXT, whatever, it feels like they have a plan for Mania, but they just don't know how to get there.
And I think that's bad.
Oh, I don't mind that.
I don't. Okay, so
it's just filling in the pieces.
I know,
like,
but,
all right, here's our main event, but like, how are we gonna get there?
That's when they start to get messy, and when things don't make sense, or like that. And that's when they start to force things or rush things, and that's when I do have a problem because, Mania happens every single year. Like that is a huge event that you say that you plan for months in advance. So to me, there's no excuse for you to then be sloppy or get lazy or to rush things, because that was the case with quite a few of the matches last year. We didn't find out about some of them until like a week or two before Mania, and it felt forced. And that was why it was like no one was really invested. And that included like Jimmy versus Jay. Like they did rush that. They didn't properly build that up. So that's why I do take an issue with it, because like I do want to be invested in as many of the Mania matches as possible. Like I want to care about, if I can, all of the matches at Mania, because like that's how it's supposed to feel. Like Mania is supposed to feel different than just a random Saturday PLE. So I feel like when they don't put the proper care and effort into it, it's very noticeable. And it just kind of takes the excitement away from it, because then you're like, okay, this was just thrown together last minute. This doesn't really make sense. Or like, I have to put my wrestling brain in because like I'm supposed to not care. And that's not always fun.
See, it doesn't feel that it was completely last minute with everything in the match. It felt like the Punk Rollins Roman exchange felt very, very planned. And that's why I see people in the chat here saying that CM Punk 100% is the Rumble guy. To me, it just felt like it was either Cena or Jay, and it was all about who's just going to go over. That's what it is. The three, what they did there, that set up a WrestleMania program.
But see, like, I still think there's an argument, and I posted this on TikTok, on our TikTok. I don't know that many people are going to be super invested in CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. I think the story there is Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. That's what people want to see. We haven't seen the end of that. And there's so much history there. Not to mention, Seth got involved in the match that led to Roman losing the title after almost 4 years as champion just last year at WrestleMania 40. So like if you're going to remove like Drew McIntyre from any sort of something with the bloodline, because it looked like he was going to be doing something like the Bloodline Hunter thing. I feel like instead of forcing a triple threat, because you also don't want it to be Punk versus Roman, and you didn't want it to be Punk versus Gunther or Punk versus Cody, then they need to have it be Roman versus Seth. I think that's the match. And then you have to find something else for Punk, because like, to me, he feels like the odd one out. The history is just not there in the same way as it is between Rollins and Reigns. Like, it's not the same at all.
It is.
It's not
a little bit more.
You know why it's not the same? Because
why isn't it the same?
Because Punk was gone for 10 years. The two of them have that history. They have 10 more years of history. It doesn't matter that the Shield was created to be his bodyguard originally. That's
the whole point. No. That's the story. What do you mean?
But that didn't even happen.
What do
the
you mean?
Shield didn't even do it. That isn't what the Shield ended up being. And he left not that long after
because they got bigger than Punk.
But exactly. So there's no history there. It doesn't matter. But the thing is,
they got bigger than Punk. There you can make a story out of that.
He left not that long after. So it's
exactly.
Roman and Seth have 10 years more history between them, with a lot of stuff that everybody has been begging to see. So why throw Punk into that? Have Punk do something else. Like, I want to see, like, and that's the thing. Do Punk Cody. If you're gonna have Jay and just pick Gunther, then do Punk Cody. There's a great storyline there. I would rather see that than a random ass triple threat.
I want to see a triple threat. I want to see a triple threat. I want to see Punk Cody. That's great. I want to see a triple threat.
I think that's
there's so much. No, there's so much to dive into.
No, I think you're wrong.
There's so much history there.
No, there's not.
Both, all three sides.
What's the history? What is the history between Roman and Seth and Punk that is better than the history between Roman and Seth directly?
We've already seen the history of Roman Seth anyways played out a little bit.
Roman's never beaten Seth. So
okay, so that's going to continue. They're still going to wrestle for, like, keep him, like, they're still going to be there. Punk and Roman had beef even when Punk was still in the company. They didn't want to wrestle each other. His whole thing there. And then, as you already said, the Shield. They were supposed to be Punk's bodyguards.
But that's not what happened. So that's not history. Just because you're like, oh, this is what should have been.
That's not history. That's what happened.
But it's not, because they didn't. Nothing happened. That's what I'm saying. Like, nothing happened. They didn't clash. There wasn't like CM Punk versus the Shield. It wasn't like, oh, you were supposed to be my bodyguards and he feuded with them. That's not what happened.
There's backstage. There's the same history there.
But that's not relevant to the average fan. They're not sitting there looking at dirt sheets. You advocate for that all the time. Well, this is what happened on TV, so that's what we're going off of. So you can't integrate things that happen behind the scenes if we didn't see it. Little 10-year-old Jimmy didn't see it.
Then it's all right. If you want to go on screen now, Wiseman, Paul Heyman.
But that to me would make more sense for him to have a one-on-one match with Roman than have a triple threat match. Why? How does that do anything?
Because the triple threat match sets up and branches off into singles matches for the upcoming year.
I would almost say Punk versus Rollins makes more sense. If you want
Mania, yeah,
do Punk. But this is what I'm saying. I don't like the triple threat. The triple threat doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense, but because it's Mania, you don't want to have multi-man matches.
It's not just that. I think that these three guys deserve better than a triple threat like that, because they could put on bangers separately. If you do Punk versus Roman, that's a banger. If you do Roman versus Seth, that's a banger. Like, we don't need to just force these three guys into a match because you have nothing else to do, and that's kind of what it feels like, because it's like there's other things that you can do that involve them. And it doesn't have to be a forced triple threat.
I don't think it's forced. I'm okay with, like,
it felt like that was forced to me.
I think exactly what happened at the Rumble makes it not forced at all.
But the reason why they did that at the Rumble was to force it, because otherwise, what are we doing? And Rollins has more beef with Roman. He has like behind the scenes beef with Punk.
Rollins and Punk have unfinished business.
Well, but he has 10 plus years of unfinished business with Roman.
Okay.
I would so much rather see Seth versus Roman. Because this is the thing,
I would
too.
rather much see a triple
triple
threat over Seth versus Roman at Mania.
Seth versus Roman. That's main event
We
night
already
1.
saw- Okay. No. Okay.
Well,
I say no.
Roman's main eventing night 1 no matter what. Because they want to keep that streak going. Cody will main event night 2, but
You don't
Roman,
think Charlotte? Yeah, that no.
no,
You don't
Charlotte
think
is
Charlotte's
not.
gonna?
No, nope, absolutely not. Roman has to
I
main
think
event.
they could.
Roman has to main event. He's main evented 10 in a row, so he has to main event. That's not a question.
He doesn't have to.
Yes, we're getting to a point where they're going to turn it into this era streak. That's what it's going to be. That's why they keep saying it.
Wild.
Did you know that Roman this is his 10th main event at WrestleMania? They're going to keep doing that. It's going to become like the Undertaker streak. That's what it's going to be. So they're going to keep having him main event.
Or Rhea Ripley defending or
Absolutely
one of those
not.
title matches.
You really think that, let's say it's Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. You think Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky?
It's not bad. I mean, I'm just thinking of more quality.
They never do that shit. That's what I've been telling you that the
but
women
no, the
never
thing,
fucking main event.
There's not, because right now there's no.
But that's why I said when the Rumble winner wins, they shouldn't say that. Don't say you get a main event. No, the fuck you don't. The only time they've done that was with like Becky and Charlotte and Ronda or Sasha versus Bianca. It's like that. Those are the only times that they've really cared. Otherwise, they don't ever build the women up to be like the main event of Mania. They never do that. They are always hyper fixated on the men.
They also main evented the 8-hour-long WrestleMania. So.
Yeah, but we like to forget.
16 matches was it?
I am not spicy. Just because I get passionate doesn't mean I'm spicy.
Just because I'm passionate doesn't mean I'm spicy.
Well, because I
could put that on a t-shirt. That's kind of clever.
Well, I don't know. I guess I take it as a negative if someone says that to me.
This will be,
know.
I can't think of the phrase. Moving on.
We got so far away from the Jey Uso thing, but
yeah, we just, that's what happens here. Just a whole lot of nonsense.
Hashtag Jey Uso should lose at WrestleMania. Anyway,
I won't. I'm on the.
He should lose.
Train dock. I'm not gonna say should win.
Here's something I can get passionate about.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to introduce it? Okay.
Oh,
so
I thought you were segueing into
no.
you saying. Okay.
So there's this big discussion, or at least discussion online, because Busted Open they discussed like why people watch wrestling, and Dave LaGreca was saying that the promo from Jey Uso on Raw where he got like emotional is the reason why we watch wrestling. Like that's what separates wrestling from other shows. And so this prompted a lot of debate online because he was saying, we don't watch wrestling for the wrestling. And so that got a lot of people talking because it's like, what are you talking about? And then me and Pat were kind of talking about it, and we don't view this the same way either.
No.
I don't agree 100% with Dave.
No.
And the reason is the biggest difference between wrestling, professional wrestling, and any other like television, sitcom or show or whatever that you watch is the wrestling.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're watching a soap opera. That's what you're saying you enjoy. And if you take the physicality out of it, then what makes professional wrestling different? So that's why it's like, I get what he's saying to an extent by being like, seeing the passion and like the hard work finally come to fruition, and seeing somebody that you really genuinely feel like deserves this success and deserves this moment. That's why you watch wrestling. But to say that's the only reason, or to disregard the physicality, the wrestling, the athleticism as like what, like, oh yeah, that's just something else. Like, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because that's what makes it sports entertainment as opposed to just entertainment. Because if it was just entertainment, like I said, you would go watch Days of Our Lives, or you would go and watch Family Matters or something. You know
General
what I mean?
Hospital.
Yeah, like
Amazing.
the wrestling is, but see, like, I don't agree. I don't think that the wrestling is secondary. Not always. I think it's like 50
not all.
50. I don't even think that I would
Well,
say that is. I wouldn't say that the
no,
entertainment is bigger or that the wrestling is bigger. I think that you need both to be a successful company and to put on a successful show.
you do. You need both. And wrestling is a variety show. That's what makes it so great. If you wanted to watch, like what you said, the no wrestling and only storyline stuff, then yeah, you're gonna watch a television show. If you want to watch just dudes kicking ass or women kicking ass, you're gonna watch either UFC or another professional sport. Wrestling is that common middle ground where you have a little bit of both of that, along with some comedic elements, some supernatural stuff. Like, it is the melting pot for entertainment, and that's what makes it so special and unique. Dave LaGreca, and that Dave LaGreca is one of the people that's an example of people who watch wrestling through a different lens than we'll say you or I. They watch it through a different lens than the internet trolls. You know what? No, because everyone watches wrestling differently, and that's what makes it so great, is that it's something that we watch so differently, and then we come into chats like this, or even when out at conventions, shows itself, and you get to talk to someone and you're learning, like, hearing them say an opinion that you're like, oh, I never even thought of that. Like, or we had this on the train going to or from WWE World, but that Roman fan that was like, oh, Roman's winning at Mania. Like, it's just, he's got to beat the blood. It's like, how do you think that? Like, you may not like it, and you could be like, yeah, Cody's winning, but I'm a big Roman guy. I'm like, yeah, all right, we're on the same wavelength. But
Yeah.
to be so stubborn in, yeah, he's winning, like, I just know it, like, Tribal Chief, it's like, are you not watching the same show that I like? How do you have that mindset? And I don't take that as a negative, because it just strengthens how I view it, because I like viewing it differently. I like viewing it through a different lens. I like hearing people's different opinions on stuff, watching different stuff from the top of the top tier WWE to the lower end indies that I see oh my god moments on YouTube. Like, I like to see it all, because it's something that cannot be replicated in this world.
Well, and I think there's arguments to be made about the moments like Jey Uso getting emotional or whatever. Like, that's why we watch. However, when you think about the biggest moments in wrestling and like the most iconic parts from over the years or whatever, I would say there are, I don't know if I would say equal parts, but a lot of people are going to point out matches more than moments. They're not going to say, oh, a top 10 moment in WWE history is Kurt Angle with the milk truck. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was a big moment, but like, is that better than seeing like the Undertaker hit 20-0 or something? You know what I mean? Like, there are times where like the moment does supersede the actual wrestling. I think it just depends on like the situation and the build up and the story and whatever. But we're at a point with watching professional wrestling where there's really no excuse to not be a top tier wrestler, because people care about that. It isn't like the 90s where it was all about being a superhero and being bigger than life, and like people really cared more about the character than they cared about what they were seeing in the ring, or they cared more about the results than they cared about like what match was put on. We're not really in that anymore. People do care about the wrestling. Like, if you look online, that is the biggest issue that people take with certain wrestlers and be like, oh, okay, well, they're not even that good in the ring. Why are they champion? Like if wrestling didn't matter to a lot of people, then no one would be complaining about that kind of stuff. So I think that it's just a happy marriage. Because like you said, or what we've said, like everybody watches it for a different reason. But I don't know. For me, I wouldn't put wrestling secondary. I would kind of say that it's both. Like, sometimes the show can be really good, and it'll be like, yeah, it was really good. Like the storylines were really good. But the matches weren't so great. Another night, it'll be like, oh, wow, the matches were so good, but it was, the overall show was kind of boring. So it like, you do, everybody cares about both. So I don't know. I would say it's more 50-50 because like you do notice when one is struggling, and the other is better and vice versa. So it's like, to me, they both matter equally.
Wrestling makes you feel, and both the matches themselves and the storytelling make you feel, and that's what makes wrestling so great.
Wrestling can make you feel things. It's not just words and emotion. It can be like, are we really going to say when Shawn Michaels looks at Ric Flair and says, "I'm sorry," and hits him with a kick? Are we really going to say, "Oh man, the wrestling doesn't make me feel anything"? Like, yeah, it does.
Right,
like
it does.
that was in the match. That wasn't a backstage segment. That
No.
like those are the types of things. It's and this is something, right? Depends on who you ask if this matters or not. But WrestleMania with the triple threat between Triple H, Chris Benoit, and Shawn Michaels, right? And Benoit.
Yeah.
Are we really gonna say seeing Benoit like absolutely destroy everybody in that match and win the title and then like celebrate with Eddie Guerrero didn't matter? Like, no, that celebration in the ring mattered, but how they both got there mattered. Who they beat to get in that. Like, so that's what I'm saying. It's like there are moments where they're equal. I don't think you could pick one without the other, because if you just got the celebration, it wouldn't be as significant, I feel like, if they hadn't had to overcome everything that was in their path to get to that moment. You know what I mean? So I feel like I don't know. I feel like it all matters. But
I do.
I was trying to pick and choose my words because I was going to use like seeing Benoit kill it. And I was like, oh, I can't.
Oh.
That's why I was like, destroy.
Destroy him.
You know what I'm saying? Well,
it's tough using violent words when bringing up his name.
I know. And,
Let me tell you something, brother. Seth Rollins does not, or
he's not a Hulkamaniac.
Is not a Hulkamaniac by any means. He was on, I think it was Good Morning Football today, one of the few clips I saw.
Yeah.
And they asked him about Hulk Hogan being booed at the premiere of Raw on Netflix. And I already pretty much Seth summed up by saying he's getting what he deserves. And I like how he did bring this up too, because I feel a lot of people share the same feeling, is that he was the one that got us into wrestling. He is the one that, he's the reason that we are doing all this. We're wrestling fans. Some people are wrestlers, all that. But it doesn't excuse the actions of the man, behind the gimmick. And that's why he's getting booed. Your actions have consequences. I couldn't agree more with Seth. And as Sheiky Baby always says, fuck the Hulk Hogan.
I think it's funny that there are more wrestlers that are willing to speak out and say these things now. Like that they're not afraid about, oh, what's going to happen if I say this? Like, what are the repercussions going to be? And I think that the timing is great because Hulk was on Pat McAfee earlier this week, which is another reason why. Come on, Pat, but Hulk.
He made a dig. Pat McAfee made a dig.
I know, but he still platforms people that he shouldn't platform. But anyway, Hogan was on there lying again, saying like, "Oh, he expected to be booed," but he basically blamed it because he's a Trump supporter, and then that's why he was being booed. And it's like, no, that's not entirely true, bro. It's part of the reason.
He also said he woke up to 13 billion impressions.
Yeah, whatever, bro. So that's the thing is like, I don't know.
No, if there's 13 billion people.
No.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I appreciate Seth for seemingly always speaking the truth, because I feel like he didn't lie also when he talked about CM Punk over the years. So him calling out and calling out another problematic person.
There's 8 billion people in the world, Sarah.
Yeah, well, he got 13 billion views, so okay.
All right, I can't.
Yeah, but see, like I think that it's
so different
it's
because
because of how he goes about it. Like I don't want to get political, but like, you know, I didn't necessarily appreciate that he had him on his podcast or whatever. However, he's not on Fox News. He's not like saying all these crazy things, and he doesn't have this like sketchy history in the same way. I think the only reason that's part of the reason why Hogan is being booed right now. But there's so much other stuff that he's getting booed for. So that's just like the latest reason. He just lacks self-awareness.
Undertaker didn't go out on stage and say insulting things about the other candidate. Do you remember that?
Yeah, or threaten violence.
That's what I mean. Like Hulk Hogan, Taker just had Trump on his podcast, I would assume, for business reasons, beneficial reasons for the podcast. I get that. But he's not
well respected in the industry than Hulk is. So
because of the way he's doing things, correct? Yes.
Well, but also just his career. You know, like he was always like from what I've heard and from interviews and stuff, like Undertaker was always like a cool guy backstage. Like I mean, I watched that interview with Maven talking about how like Taker was like, yeah, you're eliminating me. Like that's the kind of guy that Undertaker was and was never the kind of guy that Hulk was. So that goes a long way, clearly.
Is he? Oh yeah, he did. Damn right he did. Speaking of Taker, he was speaking with Bully Ray, and a little bit of truth came out that Taker was not happy with the decision of Brock going over, and saying that he wished it was someone else. Which I know he did probably say this, and is like Brock is the guy. However, the truth is going to come out eventually, and I feel like this is the real truth, is that he's probably happy for Brock. It makes sense, and he's like in the time, but the guys he brings up like Bray Wyatt could have deserved it. It's probably after the fact, like
that's
in the
what
moment, it has to be after the fact, because the guys that he named that should have done it were all people that he fought after. So
yeah,
that's
they weren't in a position to be that guy at the time that they did it.
Yeah, like 30, like he's thinking in retrospect, which totally agree with you, Taker. At the time, it's like, okay, Brock Lesnar, but in retrospect, yeah, like imagine Bray Wyatt's the one who beats a streak.
I know.
Well,
and that's why this whole thing is just kind of confusing to me, because we've been sold for so long that Undertaker is the one who decided that he was going to end the streak, and he decided it was going to be Brock Lesnar. And now he's saying that's not true, that he didn't even find out until the day of the show that he wasn't going over. And I'm like, I'm just kind of confused, because he is definitely a Vince McMahon loyalist. So it seems crazy that, I mean, and he's been a loyalist throughout all of this. So that's why it's like, I'm kind of confused about why he's saying this now. Because I don't know if it's just because of like now Brock has been named in the lawsuit, so now you're trying to like disconnect from anything, even though like we're talking how many years ago. I don't know how this really does anything, but it does feel like he's kind of like rebooking that match in today's day. And it's like, no, you probably did want it to be Brock Lesnar. But to say now, Brock didn't need it. Brock didn't need it then either. So like, what's the difference now?
Clarity. It is, and I like. What to me, it shows that Taker is on the wave of, of the current product. Like he has a finger on the pulse of what's happening right now, what is best for the future of the business, where a lot of people in his position could be the other way, and to him to recognize that Bray Wyatt or even Roman Reigns, when he beat him, should have been the one.
Roman Reigns.
That would, I mean, does it make more sense? Does it make more sense to Brock Lesnar?
No, but listen to this idea, okay?
It's the question.
Not at that time. Not when the streak ended.
Okay, let's say
if they pushed it out. If they pushed it out,
yeah,
another like year or two or whatever, then yeah, I might be a little bit more on board. And that feels like
Okay.
a Vince thing to do because you wanted Roman to be that guy. But I'm saying when Brock ended it, it did not make sense for it to be Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns wasn't like the guy at that time. But what I do think is interesting to think about is if Roman ended the streak, and that was the way that kind of like catapulted in him to being like the guy in WWE for Vince, do you think we would see the nearly 4-year long title reign? I don't know that we would.
I don't.
Simply because like how can you can't knock the guy that ended the Undertaker streak. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that seems a little bit more like that feels like a bigger deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something interesting to think about because like that could completely rewrite a bunch of history if they actually did that.
I would love for WWE with this Netflix deal to do more of what they were doing with the WWE Network with those shows like Countdown and whatnot, but this time do a what if.
Yeah, like
Um,
what if things went differently or
like Marvel does it with what if. That's cinematic. That's very well done. I know Dave Damashek in the NFL Network. He had a little series of what ifs in NFL history, just like YouTube videos, and those were so interesting because it goes back in time, like really goes back and looks at the most like the tiniest little details in the NFL landscape. They're like, oh, if this little thing happened, like a win, or oh, this person signed here in free agency instead of here, like we take that over to wrestling. Like, what if this guy was like, I don't know, it could be done.
well,
I want to
like
see shit like that with Netflix having WWE.
well, I mean, you could do that with the Rumble last year. What if Punk didn't get hurt? Or what if there was no pivot?
Literally,
if there was no pivot.
There's your two first episodes.
Yeah.
That's it. Then
Or
go back
even this, what if Rock never left for Hollywood?
That's a good.
That kind of
What
stuff.
if Stone Cold job to Brock Lesnar? That's a good one too.
Or who did he not want to? Is that who they wanted him to job to, and he said no? He left.
But the reason is insane, and I actually do respect Austin a lot for this. He was supposed to job out to him on like a random episode of Raw building up to King of Ring.
Yeah.
And there was no build, no nothing.
Yeah.
And he was like, you kidding me?
Yeah.
So
it was just because Brock Lesnar was the shiny new toy. So
yeah, and Austin took his ball and went home. What if he did not take his ball and go home?
What if Vince McMahon didn't blow his quads?
That I think Batista and John Cena would have both got right hands. He was fuming.
Yeah.
Slide into that ring. Yeah, you mentioned this, and I don't know. I'll let you introduce this because I have some I'm for it. Not right now.
Yeah. So Bully Ray was talking on Busted Open about leaning into Charlotte being a heel. And he said, based on the crowd's reaction and stuff, like if it were up to him, that he would just go like full-fledged into it, make her the biggest heel on the planet, and put all 3 women's titles on her. To me, that just feels like you're stealing a little bit from AEW with Mercedes, but like obviously all the titles would be from one company instead of multiple. But I would say no, WWE should not listen. I think they should definitely make her into a monster heel, probably like the biggest heel that she's ever been. Because I think that she's
the time to do it.
Yeah, you have to. And that's the thing. The way that people were trying to say she was being introduced as a babyface, tell me one time that we ever saw vignettes of any person that was a babyface where they were on private jets, they were sitting at their pool drinking champagne.
Yeah,
like
no.
That's not a babyface. That's not a babyface vignette. It's always associated with the bad guy. So I think that they can accomplish the same vibe with Charlotte without making her the all-time women's champion, like with all 3 titles. Like I don't think they need to do that. Not now or in the future.
How in the future? Do you
I don't
like?
think
Do
they
you?
should
I want to
ever.
see this. I want to
don't
see
wanna-
this.
Oh, I don't want to see it.
Bully is a point that if you can do this and have it be done well. I don't think it needs to go to the lengths that the tribal chief Roman Reigns went to. I could see this being more of a belt collector, Kenny Omega type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's a story that's never been done before, so it's not like it would kill the character or kill something. Whatever, like it could be done well, but the issue is that right now is not the time to do so. You have an opportunity to do so after Mania, maybe build it into SummerSlam, and you know, I could do a whole video about what to do. I actually got an idea, but the point is that Charlotte Flair is just got to the point where she is who she is. She's not a heel, she's not a face, she's Charlotte Flair, and people know her as it's my belt or nobody's belt. Why not just do a little program to get, to give her all the belts and see where it goes? You already have, like, I don't know. There's a way for it to be done.
I think that we're not thinking about her willingness to do that. Do you know how much that would require her to work? She would have to work Raw, SmackDown, and NXT.
Yeah, she's not seeing anybody. She has the time to work.
She's also nearing 40 and recovering from an ACL injury. I can't imagine that she necessarily wants to do that for an extended period of time. But I also think it's fair to think about the Roman Reigns effect on the titles and having all the titles on one person and how that negatively impacts the roster. So that's another thing that I don't love about it. Because then you're really pigeonholing yourself into all these girls are competing for not a lot of anything. I mean, they fortunately have the mid-card titles, but I don't know. I don't love the idea.
It could be done. I'm not now. No, but it could be done. Dylan is a Charlotte fan and he doesn't even want it. So
yeah, see, I'm with Dylan on that.
My mind works a little different.
I think they can still accomplish the same vibe without having to do that. And if you can't, then you're not really great at being creative at your job, in my opinion. I want a monster heel. I've been begging for monster heels. Charlotte feels like it's a slam dunk. You don't even have to try that hard. People hate her.
Roxanne Perez is making a case to be that in NXT.
Well,
she is just making herself the most arrogant asshole little twerp. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Cora Jade even.
Yeah.
That's even NXT. It's so good every week. Their women's division's crazy.
Oh my god, Fandango. Also.
Who's just going by JDC.
I know, I don't know what that is.
Now. Johnny something Curtis.
Is that even his real name?
I think it is.
I don't
Johnny Dango Curtis.
No, it's his name is Curtis Jonathan.
Oh, well,
so they just inverted his name like Shawn Michaels. Yeah, it's Johnny Dango Curtis. I liked it when he was Dirty Dango. I think that's
good. Cooler. That's why I'm the fucking champ. I know this shit. 1, 2, 3. It's time for the 3 count. Sarah, not to get off with 20 questions this week, because guess what? I can't.
Well, we're also running late too.
We are running late, and I wanted to bring this up because Fightful did finally report about this, and I didn't want to say anything until our dude SRS made a comment. But WWE Town are unhappy with Def Rebel and their music. A lot of them are fighting for getting their old theme songs back. And
we saw that
God
at the Rumble.
Damn it.
We saw that at the Rumble because Alexa Bliss returned and she had her old music. And AJ Styles returned and had his old music. So 2 returning superstars already just were like, yeah, that shit you had me using before. No. So that's why it's I feel like this story is coming out now. because it was very obvious to everybody that those two had terrible entrance themes the last time we saw them, and everybody was begging for their old ones to come back. And then they do come back and they're both using their old ones. So that feels like, okay, now we're going to hear some of the truth about Def Rebel, because the fans have been saying it for a really long time, but we haven't really heard it definitively from, you know, wrestlers or whatever.
No, we haven't.
But that was a sign.
It was a sign. Like Randy Orton I've seen a lot about Randy Orton asked to change his music and him saying no every time. There've been thoughts.
Yeah.
You can't change his music.
It's
Kevin
like
Owens
changing it now. You can't.
Yeah, no, you can't. Kevin Owens has had the same goddamn entrance,
but
since
it works.
NXT. But it works. Whatever he's doing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like it might just be instrumental, but like it works for him. It fits his vibe no matter what he's doing. So he's lucked out in that regard.
What do you think of Finn's?
I didn't hate it, but I don't think it fits his vibe. Like, I think it could, but like they debut it when he hadn't been around for a while. So it feels like they could have tried to like make it into something. But it's the Rumble is always something that reminds us of how bad the music has gotten, because nobody reacts until they see the name on the screen. Like their songs are not identifiable. And that to me is like, that's the easiest thing that's the easiest reason why you should change the songs, because we shouldn't have to be, you know, looking at the screens. Because like I was watching it with my sister and she kept looking at me because she doesn't watch it on a regular basis, so she doesn't necessarily know music. So she would look at me when the music hit to be like, okay, who is it? And it would take me a second sometimes because I'm like, I don't even fucking know.
There's a lot of them that they need to change music in some way.
And CFOs wasn't that bad. Like they
CFO
got rid of
good.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
CFO was glorious.
We all yearn for Jim Johnston, but I think people forget he's like his 70s and he's doing music for movies. So like he's not just gonna come back, but his mentality of how he made music for wrestlers, that is something that they can try to look for in who they replace Def Rebel with, because he has talked about how he tried to make you feel like who that person was, or just by hearing their song, or even just hearing like the first beat, like you immediately knew who it was, what they were about, what their vibe was. Like it told a story, and I feel like that is lacking with the music that we've been getting over the last however many years. Like it's you can't identify the person, and then when you do see it, it's like you just said with Finn, it didn't fit at all.
I didn't know it was Finn until I saw him running, and I was like,
nobody did.
Good.
I don't think anyone did, and I felt bad because I was like, that's Fergie, and I didn't even know.
I felt so bad. I would like to see the CFO. Or why don't they bring in Downstate? Downstate does like a bunch of theme songs for a bunch of wrestlers.
But you don't want that all the music to sound the same, because the singer sounds the same.
Well, they can source out other people.
I mean, I guess, but they were like a legit band, so they might not want to be like doing that, you know?
They may not. They also do stuff for AEW and Matt Cardona.
Well, and I think they need to bring in people who can do all kinds of music, you know, because some people don't need like rocker.
No, some people do need a hip hop.
Yeah, or poppy or whatever, you know, synthetic something.
With the Super Bowl being on Sunday, it got me thinking about when WWE at the time did halftime heat with the empty arena match between The Rock and Mankind for the WWE title. And I would like to see this get resurrected, you know, do a match during halftime of the Super Bowl on, you know, on your social channel, on YouTube or something, you know, just to get eyes during that time. Because the people that I have talked to about the Super Bowl, someone today said they don't even watch the halftime. You know what I mean? They're not into it. They're not a fan of it. Doesn't matter who the you know, who the musical guest is. It's not their thing. And that's someone who is just a fan and isn't. that means that there's definitely others who have reasons for it and whatnot. They'd rather watch something else or whatever the case may be. Just do it. I don't see why not. And you could do something like an empty arena match. You do like a press conference of some sorts. Like you should be doing something like halftime heat during big moments like this so that you can get more eyes on the product.
Sorry.
Anything to add?
I think it would be kind of risky just because it's already kind of risky for them going up against like Monday Night Football. You know what I mean? So like I think especially in a year like, I mean, I know it's not going to happen this year, but I think the halftime shows do get a lot of people to watch them, especially people who are not football watchers. Like they'll turn on the Super Bowl just to see the halftime show. So I think it's kind of risky with like how big the stars are that they're bringing in, like to try to compete with that. I mean, there's like millions and millions and millions of people that watch the Super Bowl, and then trying to deter them from watching that to then watch your match. Like, I don't think that would work out too well for them.
I feel like they could do it. They could bring back in some way because maybe for a big occasion, like it was Rock Mankind that year. You know what I mean? Like that's the hottest thing. If Cody was in something similar to last year with the build to WrestleMania, you know, between Roman or whatever, you know, what if KO Cody this wasn't the, you know, nail in the coffin. It still had another match in the trilogy, if you want to say that. You could finish it that way. I don't know. It's possible. And then to wrap it up, we are going to talk 2K25 because the bad gal needs to make her debut or return in 2K, but debut in 2025, whatever. I am currently still playing it, even though I'm not streaming it, Sarah, because the story's really good. And from what I've heard this year about not only the My Player story, but the game itself, they brought the NXT parking lot to life it being a backstage arena or backstage area to fight. They have the archives room where you can fight in there. There's like a WrestleMania ring with no ropes. You can jump on the SmackDown fist.
Oh my gosh.
There's first person camera angle that you can use, and they have during entrances now, if it's your character coming out, you can switch the camera to be you watching it like you're making your television entrance, or you can literally have like go third person camera and it's you being the person walking out doing the entrances, that. They brought the island of relevancy, so it can be an open world type of game similar to the NBA 2K franchise, which they've done really well with that. And then there's other stuff that I want to mention all the big things because I want everyone to get it because we got to do a universe mode. I don't like it's getting so good from what I've seen and the features that they have that we need to do something with the universe mode with the bad gal. I mean, if I can make BRG again, maybe every time we interview a wrestler on the show, they get thrown into the nonsense. That would be a funny little detail. I don't know. There's a lot that you can do with this, and it's shaping up to be a very good wrestling game. I saw a comment here that you flashed, but I was talking. Where is it? The game looks so good. It might be in the areas of 2K14, 2K19. I liked those 2Ks. They were okay. I was more of a fan of WWE 12 and 13 with Randy Orton and Punk on the cover. Nothing will ever top, in my eyes, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth and Here Comes the Pain and the OG SmackDown versus Raws. Like those games were the best. This issue was there was no longevity. There's no My Faction where you could just play it over and over. The stories got very repetitive. So by adding this and other stuff like this has potential to be a hell of a game. I'm so excited. I wish you could get it too, because they have an online GM mode. So you and I could go face to face. Like
I mean, I can get it. I would just have to use my sister's game system.
No, but I don't know if it's for Switch, is it?
No, she has PlayStation.
Oh, she does?
Yeah, my sister.
I thought she
and
only
my
had a Switch. I thought you
no,
told me she only had a Switch.
I have a Switch.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's
No,
got because
can you play? Can you play through different systems though? Because you play on Xbox.
no, now they have cross-platform.
Oh,
It's
okay.
I don't know if they're probably gonna put it or make it possible for 2K. I know I can do it in NHL and Madden because Stadium Rant. I'm in those Madden and college football leagues, and I'm
Mhm.
playing dudes on PlayStations. So
Got it.
I would, oh man, I would love to go one-on-one against you booking shows. I think I would book some. I think I'd book better. Just say.
Well, you probably would because I've never played.
Well, it has nothing to do with the playing. It's
Well, yeah,
booking of
but
the shows.
I guess.
Because you simulate all the. It's simulate. You don't have to play all the matches. You just book it.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Cannot wait for that. A lot of good things on the horizon. We can't wait to bring it to you. Thank you guys for tuning in to this show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell notification to know every time we go live. Follow us on TikTok. Sarah went live for a little bit on there just to see what's popping. All right, trying new things in 2025. That's what we're doing. Working on some interviews, some fun stuff. And I just mentioned 2K. Like I said it. When Sara wins or goes for the WWE Championship, I will be in her corner live streaming it, but we're not there yet. All right. So we'll get there and we'll get to other fun stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in. God bless me. You can do it. All you got to do is try. See you next time.